Do you know what? We actually had no chance. Absolutely no chance. We just, right from the beginning, you know. Hi, my name is Scola and you look absolutely wonderful today. You just look wonderful. Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. I am getting back into the swing of having little chats with you guys, but I have to tell you guys today, everything kept going wrong. I had incense on and I thought it was going to be vibey, but instead it just made the whole room super smoky and you couldn't actually see me. My memory card was acting up. Anyway, so today we are going to be talking about pop culture that just absolutely destroyed my body image before I even knew what body image was. Okay, we're gonna get into it. But before we do, if you like my energy, if the vibes feel right, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell button so you get notified when I upload, which is gonna be a lot more. Do you know, I always say it, but I'm really gonna do it. I have so much to chat about, like, oh. So anyway, so we're gonna be chatting about just the absolute mess that was the media we were consuming growing up, personally in my era. So I'm talking the 2000s, basically, the early 2000s and also the 2010s. That was my era of growing up, okay? Okay, so to start off with, I'm gonna go right into Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. Now, I was a Nickelodeon and a little Disney kid. I don't think, did I have a preference? I think it flip-flopped depending on like what shows were on. So like my favorite like Nickelodeon shows were like Victorious and Ned's Disclassified, and then over on Disney we had Hannah Montana, we had Wizards of Waverly Place, all of these different shows. And one thing I will say is that they were pretty bad at representation when it came to body image. I remember still feeling satisfied that I had That's So Raven, and I will start off by saying That's So Raven was one of the most positive representations I have ever seen on TV ever. And so before I get into all the negativity, I feel like I have to just champion That's So Raven a little bit. Now, I don't know if there's any like controversies or negativity when it comes to that show. I'm not aware of it. I'm just speaking on my experience, so you guys are gonna have to let me know. But I loved That's So Raven because I was a little black girl and she was a black girl. Like, she was the perfect depiction of a teenage black girl navigating the world, navigating school, everything like that. And I love that they depicted her as attractive. Like, she had love interests, and not just any love interest, like fine love interest, as she liked to say. And that was really nice because she was seen as desirable, but she could also be like goofy and funny, and she was stylish. And also they had really impactful episodes where they really tackled important issues such as race. I will never forget that episode. Oh my gosh, if I find the clip, I will put it in. But I remember seeing that episode and just being like, yes. And I went into school the next day like, try me. Somebody try me, because I am ready to tussle. Not tussle, but I know my rights. I know what I should do in these situations. And I loved that. I went to like an all-white school basically, and I was like one of the only black kids, so it was just like beautiful. And I was like really hoping that other kids at school had watched that episode. I was like, did y'all watch that? Did you watch it? Because I hope you did, and I hope you learned a few things. But the reality is probably they weren't watching That's So Raven. They were probably watching Hannah Montana or the other shows that made, or Lizzie McGuire. Oh my God. How did I forget about Lizzie McGuire? Iconic. So I'm gonna go over to Disney mainly because one thing I noticed as I was getting older and I was growing out of the network is I noticed that they were hiring increasingly smaller actresses from back in my day. I feel like they still had, you know, a little bit of a better representation back in the day, but they started to just find smaller and smaller actresses, especially as the main characters. I mean, it was great because I feel like they did get a lot more like black actresses, but at the same time, I was like, I can't relate, baby. And I have to be very careful here because these are real people, these are their real bodies, and I'm not saying that that representation is bad, because actually, as somebody who grew up with a best friend who was the polar opposite of them, she was tiny, this tiny little white girl, and I was like, there's a big black girl, because like I was tall and, you know, a little bit and I remember her insecurities were just as bad as mine, and she was getting bullied just as bad as me, which is crazy. And it's because she was on the smaller side and she hadn't like developed and all these things, so she didn't feel like a woman and she didn't feel like a girl. And I feel like there's something to be said there as well. It's not like when I speak on my experience when it comes to being on the larger side or gaining weight, I'm not trying to, you know, say that the experience for the opposite isn't difficult. It is, because I've seen how it can have a negative impact, but we all know generally fat phobia is a bit worse, isn't it? But anyway, it was really sad actually, because she's my best friend and she ended up dropping out of school due to anxiety when it came to the way that she looked, and she ended up getting cosmetic surgery done and all of that to make herself feel more womanly, I suppose. And I'm not saying cosmetic surgery is bad. I just know, do you know what? Stop! I'm getting all these notifications. I'm just saying that in that instance, it was just sad because I knew why and what had led to it, because I'd seen the whole story. So as much as that representation is great, but I just noticed, I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but yeah, the actresses were just getting tinier, and I don't know where we're at now. I haven't caught up with Disney, but I mean, who knows, who knows? And I think the saddest thing is I do remember on Ali and AJ, I didn't watch the show that much. It wasn't my favorite, but they did have a best friend character, because why would she ever be the main character? Obviously. They had a best friend character who didn't fit their usual mold when it came to bodies. And I remember they did do like a few episodes where she spoke about her confidence and I think body confidence. I vaguely remember. And at this point, I'd already got into health and fitness, and it was really nice to see actually. But the sad thing is a few years later, she became a meme and people calling her a skinny legend. And it's just started as a funny little thing, but I think it started to really impact her mental health and the way she saw herself, and it got a bit sinister. So it's like, yeah, representation is great, but then when you do have it, people just end up ruining it for everyone. So her name was Rainy Rodriguez, I believe. So those were my early years, okay, Nickelodeon and Disney, and then we moved on to some older type shows, and I can't get through this video without talking about Skins. The Tumblr girlies know about Skins and we know about Generation 1. So if you never watched Skins, it's about teenagers in sixth form, or college as we call it here in the UK. So it's basically between the ages of 16 and 18. You sort of separate yourself from younger school. I'm describing this so terribly. You go to a separate school, or sometimes it can be attached to a school that you went to from the age of 11. But I went to a college. So I left the secondary school or high school that I went to and then went to a college separately. I feel like no one needs this context, but maybe it will help. So the show was just about these wild teenagers just being crazy and all this stuff. And it was a British TV show, and they tried to do an American remake, which was terrible, because if there's one thing I learned in media studies in college, it's that British TV is really great for realism and American TV is more aspirational. So like you've got your Gossip Girls and your 90210, whereas over here we had Skins, a dirty, grimy show about kids just doing the worst stuff you can think of. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of love it, because I just love that. I'm about to talk about how Skins wasn't great in terms of maybe providing access to something that we maybe didn't need, but I don't know. We're gonna discuss. But I will say it was really great for actually depicting real teenagers, and I feel like I could really relate to the characters. So in Generation 1, we had Cassie. Now Cassie had an ED, so trigger warning, she had an ED, and so one of her quotes was all over Tumblr all the time, and that quote was, "I didn't eat for 3 days so I could be lovely for you." She was meant to go on a date with this guy who was a bummy ass man, honestly. I don't know why she liked him, but anyway. I am here for Sid slander, but he didn't turn up to the date and it triggered her ED, and she was like, oh my god, I didn't eat for 3 days for this date, and people just ran with it. And as a little girly who had no boys looking her way, I was like, oh my god, I'm not gonna eat for 3 days and maybe someone will fancy me. In my warped little brain, that's how it went, and I'm so sorry, but I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate. And so I don't know, there's something to be said about characters in media that have EDs and whether it is worth having that representation or not, or worth having that awareness, not representation, but awareness, because it's raising awareness for a very real thing that would be there whether media existed or not. But I do feel like it did make more people aware of something that they might have not. Anyway, you guys let me know if you think Cassie was a character that was needed to show what it was like to be a teenage girl, because it was very real and actually very realistic, because we all went to school with girls who struggled with this, or did it just like sort of fuel the flames of something that didn't need to be fueled? Do you know what I mean? I don't know. And then in the second and third generation of skins, we had Effie, who she didn't necessarily have an ED, but I feel like her mental health struggles also sort of like fueled this whole like wanting to be this like mysterious pixie girl, I think they call it, just like, and she was again an actress that they cast who was on the smaller side. And then in the third generation, we had another character, Minnie. Wow, my memory is amazing. I didn't even look this up. This is all from here. We had Minnie, who also was struggling with an ED, but they sort of like dropped that storyline. I mean, the third generation was an absolute mess anyway. So again, I feel like it just really fueled that whole idea of striving to be smaller. Next up, I wanted to briefly touch upon Victoria's Secret. I mean, I feel like Victoria's Secret, it was a moment. A part of me was like, I wish they'd had representation. I wish they'd had different bodies, because it would have been so iconic. Because seeing what Rihanna is doing with Savage X Fenty now is just wow. And it's like, ugh, imagine if they just had different bodies with those angel wings. It would have been so good. Like, I remember when I first got into watching Victoria's Secret shows and stuff like that, I was still in a space where I found it difficult to be a black girl, and I was struggling with accepting myself and my skin. But as I got older, I started to really be like, I love my skin. And so I started looking to the Victoria's Secret angels that were darker, like the black girls, and I love that they started like casting black girls like Chanel Iman, and I can't remember the others. I mean, we had Tyra Banks back in the day, but by the time I started watching it, just stuttering out here, Tyra Banks wasn't involved. So I remember looking to them, and it was nice to see that representation. But even then, it was like a fight to get a black girl in the Victoria's Secret show. So let alone any girl that was a little bit different from their very small sort of cookie cutter mold that they already had. So Victoria's Secret, goes without saying, I remember watching it every year, getting so excited. And I remember when I did lose a lot of weight, going to London, because they just opened a Victoria's Secret, like the first Victoria's Secret store here in the UK. They opened it. I went to London, Bond Street with my family. I remember going in there with the intent on getting some leggings. I was like, I'm gonna get myself, you know, those yoga leggings that everyone was obsessed with? And I could never wear those leggings now, because they were actually like low waist. And you will never catch me in anything low waist. Like, it just makes no sense. Like, my butt's gonna be out, okay? But back then I could do it. And I remember I loved those leggings. And actually, fair enough, they were great quality. Like, I wore those leggings to the ground, and eventually they ended up getting holes in them. But I wish, do they still do the leggings? Because that material, the thickness, because nowadays I feel like leggings are so thin and flimsy. But I think that's just because fast fashion has gotten worse and worse and worse, and getting high quality stuff is really difficult. Sidebar, if anyone could recommend some good leggings, some good black leggings, let me know. I love the ones from M&S. They're really good, but they have a very thick band that's very good at sucking in, which I love. Like, it's very supportive. But me trying to decide whether it's bad that I like that they're sucking me in. Oh, do you see how you have to just analyze everything you say and do? Like, wow, do I like the leggings because they suck me in and make me look smaller? I'm going off on a tangent. Victoria's Secret, bad. We all know that. We've all spoken about it. I've seen so many videos about Victoria's Secret being bad, bad, bad. But they've made a huge U-turn, and they're trying to come back now. And I don't know how I feel about this. I'm just not really that fussed. It's all about money at the end of the day. Like, even the companies that are starting now that are all about inclusivity and everything, it's because they know people are going to buy into it because it's the new trend. As great as it is, it's because they just realize, oh crap, people are going to stop buying our stuff if we don't include them in our products. So I guess we have to. That's literally it. We saw it with makeup when it came to like foundation shades. Now, whoa, there's a lot of foundation shades, like, because they're like, crap, we have to look like we're really trying. If no one had ever said anything, they probably wouldn't have tried. Anyway, let's get into the next one. So we had Skins, Victoria's Secret. So now I'm just gonna list off a few movies and TV shows that I remember not being great. And this is what I'm trying to highlight, is that the problem was with the years that we were growing up is that every TV show, every movie had some sort of reference that was just negative when it came to body image, especially when it came to larger, bigger bodies. I'm not saying that there wasn't negativity for any other kind of body, but we all know fat phobia is really pretty prevalent still today. So I love a good tangent, don't I? I really do. But anyway, bring it on. I remember there were these mean girls, and I think they were trying to depict how mean they were. They weren't actually trying to enforce this as a beauty standard, but I think inadvertently they still did, because it was still something that was said. And these mean girls were like shaming this girl for like eating and being a bit on the larger side. And I have pictures of her right here, and she just looks like the typical girl today, because I think it's because she just has a bum. I'm looking at it and it's like, this was before the BE era, and she's just a white girl with a bum, and they didn't know what to do with that. They did not know what to do with that. And so that was pretty damaging. And I think there was sort of like a reference to an ED in that movie as well. I won't say what it is because we're not trying to get into that today. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, next up we have Bidget Jones. Again, this is something I've seen a lot of the girlies here on YouTube talk about. Bidget Jones, what a mess. And I remember the actress getting so much praise because she'd literally go from a size 6, purposely gain weight for the movies, to be like a size 12 or something like that. I don't know the exact sizes. Whoa, if something got really dark. But she was literally praised for being able to gain and lose the weight so easily and fast. And I'm pretty sure it probably did a right number on her. But that movie wasn't great because it depicted her as being like this above average size woman, and she was literally the average size woman, and it's just crazy. And then also just her with her diary entries, like she'd literally write her weight in her diary entry. And I remember that was something I actually did. Like if I go back to my diaries when I started like my weight loss journey, I'd always have my weight. So literally I would have like I know what weight I was on January the 31st, 2008. No, not 8. I probably would have been like 2011 or something. So it's little things like that, like that sort of influenced me. Like, why am I writing my weight in my diary? Like my diary was a place for me to express my emotions, and I'm so glad I started keeping a diary from when I was like 11 up until now. I feel like it's been very therapeutic for me, but then knowing that there's sort of like that negative element where I was literally keeping track of my weight, it's gross. And also ended up being like a food diary for me at some point as well, which I think was something that was in Bidget Jones' diary as well. It's just all a bit silly, isn't it? Like, I can't believe we grew up like this and we're still having to fight this today, which is why I'm sitting here making this video. Okay, next up we have some movies made by men. So are you even surprised? We have Shallow Hal. What's that comedian's name? Jack Black. Shallow Hal, that was just a terrible movie. And then also we have Norbit. Like, one thing about Eddie Murphy is he's gonna put on a fat suit and take the piss out of fat people. That's what he's gonna do. Norbit, he also had that Tea Professor from Eddie Murphy. What more can I say? And next up we have Friends. We all know about Monica. Monica. Now, Friends is one of those shows I watch simply just because when you turn on the TV back in the day, it was always on Channel 4, or is it like E4? I don't know. When you just want background noise, turn on the TV, Friends is going to be on. And it's just one of those really just things, because it's literally this tiny actress putting on a fat suit to make fun of how this character used to be and the way people treated her. Even her husband did not like her, took the piss out of her back when she was larger, but now he's in love with her and married. It's all a mess when you really look at it. It's all a mess. So we had that. Mean Girls. Mean Girls, there's obviously that whole section where Katie is secretly feeding Regina George those like weight gaining bars or whatever, like, and she's making her gain weight. And like, I guess this is a tricky one because it was literally like, that's the worst thing she could do to her. The worst thing she could do to this girl was to make her gain weight. I mean, I guess you could say like, because she knew Regina George wouldn't want to gain weight, and it's the worst thing in Regina George as well, but also they sort of perpetuated that it was like the worst thing you could do, full stop, to a person, was to make them gain weight. I don't know how I feel about that one. Still an iconic movie though. Love Mean Girls. And then we had Pretty Little Liars. Again, we have the flashbacks of Hannah being larger back in the day, and now she's like this small, pretty, popular blonde girl. What else have we got? Gossip Girl. I love Gossip Girl, but we all know it's so problematic. There's so many problematic things about it, but I think that's why I love Gossip Girl, because it was just like, well, that is the real world. The real world is problematic, and I don't like that the new Gossip Girl is trying too hard to be, can I say it? Can I say it's trying too hard to be woke? You guys let me know what you think, but I feel like they're trying too hard, whereas the whole point of Gossip Girl was looking at these people being terrible, knowing that they're terrible and being entertained by it, because that's real. But I think they're trying too hard to show what we're into these days, which is being a bit more socially aware, but I guess you don't really need that from Gossip Girl. Gossip Girl is about looking at these rich people being dumb. That was the whole point. Okay, I gotta check my lip gloss. Do you guys get that thing where it just like gunks up around your mouth? So I have to always check it, like, is there a way to stop it? I feel like there isn't. But anyway. Oh, okay. So this one, I don't know if you guys have watched the Sleepover movie. Now, this is a throwback. I love this movie. It's so cute, so wholesome. And basically, there's a character called Yancy, and she's a plus-size character. And she says that she feels self-conscious, worries she'll never be in a relationship due to her size. Her friends comfort her by essentially saying that she should just find a bigger guy to date, and in the movie she does. Like, she's outside a club. I don't know why these little girls are outside a club, like it's a whole mess, but she ends up finding a guy who's a little bit on the larger side as well, and it's just like, ugh. Because I feel like that was something that happened to me at school as well. Like, I remember my friend sort of pushing me towards this guy that was also on the larger side as well. I mean, and it was also really awkward because I think we were like besties. So it was like, and I feel like people were just saying that because we were like both on the larger side and nobody else fancied us. So like, we might as well just like get together. So that one was a bit triggering for me personally. Next up, we have Bridesmaids, the movie as well. Melissa McCarthy, am I saying that right? Yeah. She tends to be the butt of every joke in that movie. Now, obviously, she's just like a comedic person. That's just who she is. One thing I will say about Melissa McCarthy, in her own movies where she's the main character, she does depict herself as an attractive woman. Like in Spy, I love that she's like made to be this desirable woman, even though it's a bit funny. It's just, I feel like in her own movies, I feel like she does a better job of depicting herself than in Bridesmaids, which I don't know if it was her own movie. I don't know if she was involved in writing it or producing it, because I know she is involved in the behind the scenes. But one thing I will say about her is that she tends to write herself as attractive. Not sure now though, not sure if she's like done a, what's her name? You know, the other comedian lady who's like lost a bunch of weight now. Can't remember her name. Blonde lady. Let me know in the comments down below. Next up, we have another movie that I absolutely love, and I'm really sad to actually include it in this list, but it's The Duff. I love The Duff, but again, they make the main character seem like she's massive or something like this ugly character. Literally, she's just brunette, and like, no, actually, it makes no sense. It makes no sense, but The Duff, again, makes her depict her as like somebody that's just, oh, it's just crazy. So next up we have White Chicks, which is a whole it's a whole thing to unpack. I'm not gonna get into it, but in that, you know, there's that whole scene where it's like Tina the talking tummy. Now I guess it was just commentary on how women look at their bodies and how they react in a changing room, but it's very real. So I don't know actually whether that was negative as much as it was just like, did you see how ridiculous this is? Like, this woman who is tiny is in this changing room having a breakdown. But I suppose it was a good depiction of what things were like back then, because I think in that they like asked, like, does my butt look big in this? And I will never get over that as somebody who's always had a big butt, or a butt on the biggest side. Right? That whole era of people saying, does my butt look big in this, to now people wanting their butt to look big in something. Their butt to look big. That's a tongue, I'm like, ugh. It's a tongue twister. It's a tongue twister. That's what it is. But yeah, I still feel a lot of bitterness to that whole evolution of going from making fun of big butts to all of a sudden everyone wants a big butt now. And I know big butts are probably going a little bit out now, but still. So yeah, those are sort of the ones I grew up with. And then in more recent years, again, going back to that question, like, should we really depict EDs in media? To the bone, I feel like as much as I was trying to show how bad an ED can be and how we shouldn't romanticize it and go after it, I think that if you're already that way inclined, you're still going to use that piece of media as inspiration and motivation. Personally, that's how I feel. But I do know we still have to bring awareness to the issue. So To the Bone was a more recent one. At the time, I wasn't really still in that mindset, but I still do get triggered to this day. I still get triggered to this day. That tea is cold now. But one of my most recent triggers has got to be K-pop. And I do worry, I'm not sure, because I feel like K-pop had a real boom pre-pandemic, I believe. We had Blackpink, and we also had BTS really storming the US and storming the West in general, but I've not seen it be as much of a mainstream thing in the West anymore. But obviously the K-pop girlies are still there. We're still standing K-pop. I still love K-pop. But one of the most negative sides of that is just seeing how different the East is when it comes to body image, and how being small is still something that's very much celebrated, and how on TV it's just such a norm to sit there and talk about really dangerous crash diets, talk about your weight, your height. Like, all these K-pop idols, you can find out their height and their weight so easily because it's something that they have to regularly talk about, which is mad to me. But it's a different culture, it's a different vibe. It's a different culture, it's a different vibe. But I have to say, when I discovered K-pop, I'm not gonna lie, I did get re-triggered a little bit. And I remember just being like, ooh, like, and watching some of the videos here on YouTube where people are talking about their diets and like everything. And then there's this whole thing on YouTube where all the girls were trying K-pop diets, which I get it was more to show how bad they were, but I feel like it was still encouraging to people because they were still losing weight. And if you want to lose weight and you're desperate, you don't care if someone's making a video going, look, I lost 10 pounds, but it was so dangerous, it was so bad. People won't hear the last bit. They'll just hear the bit where they was like, I lost 10 pounds in like a week. So yeah, I think those are all the movies and TV shows that I could think of at the moment that had a negative impact on my body image, or at least gave me something to think about when it came to body image when I was a little bit younger, in like my teens and when I was an adolescent as well. So yeah, I just thought I'd get into it because I guess I just want you guys to be aware of how much we have been affected as a generation when it comes to our bodies. Like the 90s kids, oh, they had it bad. They had it bad. I feel like that seeped into the 2000s as well. And it's going to be interesting to see the generations now, because obviously there are people like me and other people on the internet, you know, raising awareness. You know, we've had the body positivity movement and everything. So there's always backlash now when it comes to negative trends, when it comes to bodies and everything like that. But I want to see, like, you know, will rates for EDs go down because now we have more representation and it's a conversation that what we weren't having before. I want to talk about this because I think I'm really going through a stage of healing because I think I really thought I was good. I mean, if you guys have been watching me for a while, you know, I've always preached about loving yourself, embracing your body. Even when I was all about like losing weight, I'm really into my fitness and everything. I still am, just in a different way and with a different focus now. I thought I was still good. I thought I loved myself. I thought I loved my body, but I think I loved the way I could change my body. I loved my body because I was good at maintaining my body to look a certain way. But what happens when you can't? And sometimes you can't control that, whether you have a health condition like me, my nose is dripping, sorry, eel. Whether you have a health condition like me, or, you know, you could be in a car accident, break your leg, you know, and that has an impact on your fitness. Or, you know, you go through a bereavement, you're not thinking about your health and fitness necessarily. Like, so many things can happen that mean you actually have to learn to love your body as it is, wherever it is, whatever is going on with your body, like just embracing it. And I think that's the biggest lesson I've had in my 20s since being diagnosed with hypothyroidism. The journey from going to trying to manage my hypothyroidism and being upset that I have it, to just being like, you know what, this is who I am now. Like, this is what I have to work with. Like, I will gain weight with a quickness if anything is going on in my life. Like if I'm stressed, if I'm upset, if I'm not doing well, whatever, if I'm focused on something else, because my condition is pretty difficult to manage, I'm gonna gain weight. And I've had to really just accept that. And I've realized it's harder to love yourself when you can't control everything. It seems easier to love yourself when you're in control. That's been a bit of a revelation why I'm really being so nostalgic and looking back on things that have had an impact on me growing up, because I think it's going to help me to heal moving forward. And also it helps me with the media that I consume moving forward. The people that I follow now are so different from the people I used to follow online. Like what I consume, I'm so much more conscious of how it's affecting me, and back then I just wasn't. So that's what I'm going to say about that. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to know what had an impact on you growing up. Leave it down in the comments down below. Let me know if there's anything else you guys would like me to talk about. But it's been so good having a little chit chat and getting back into the swing of things. But anyway guys, I'll catch you in the next video. Remember, you are luscious. I haven't said that in ages. You are young and you are luscious. Anyway guys, I'll talk to you later. Bye.